Love that one.
Thank you.
Solitude. All right.
Yeah, that's another one that, you know, just came from just picking up the guitar and just telling the engineer to hit record, and that tune came out.
And it just...
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff...
That is amazing. I can't...
Well, you know, it's interesting.
I'm not... Yeah.
Every record I've ever done, and I've written probably 150 songs.
Wow.
And recorded probably 125 or something.
And that's...
in the last 30 years. And the thing is, you always... Everyone is different. Everyone is different. Some things just, you know, take longer. Some things come out in minutes. In the case of that one, it was just a question of the sound of the instrument, the tuning of the high-strung guitar that just kind of inspired me to play something. And, you know, and then I went, okay, you know, because sometimes that thing that you just do that you're not aware of when you capture it on recording, it really lends itself to being like, wow, okay, that's a special moment. Just like with a photographer. I mean, a photographer might pick a certain moment and take a shot.
And the lighting.
The lighting just happens to be right there, and you go like, great, you know, I was lucky that I got it.
So the engineer didn't have too much input on him?
No.
Well, they don't really. They just
well,
set the levels pretty much when you play, right?
What the engineer does is they're there to set the levels and get the sounds that I want. And once everything's up and running, then I just, you know, start playing. And that's the thing. I mean, in the studio, it can be, it's hard because sometimes, you know, we recorded not the last record, but the record I talked about, Batavia, in 3 different countries, in Argentina, Germany, and LA. And the session we did in Argentina was in a very small studio with a bandoneon player. The bandoneon is that instrument. It's like an accordion, but it's played with the buttons that they use in the tango. And, you know, I remember the session, and the drums that we had were not my brother's regular DW kit. They were just whatever they were down there, but he had his cymbals. And the monitoring for the headphones was horrible. And I remember being in the studio, but the thing is, I've learned so much about recording and the process of what you need to get the end result, that after we were done and I listened to the playbacks at the hotel, I went, no, everything's cool. You know, I'm going to take it over to Germany to my engineer, and we're going to, you know, do the mixing there, and it'll be fine. So even when you think it's horrific what you're doing at the moment, when you get a little, you know, step back and see what's going on, you know, it's usually you're surprised in a pleasant way of what comes out of it. So, you know, and again, it's like what we said, you know, those little faux pas that come up and those technical, you know, things that happen. You have to deal with them. It's all part of the process. But, you know, ultimately, if you've got something to say, regardless of the mix-up and the little goofs that you make, it's going to come through. That's, you know. So
sometimes you change it later, like you said, after...
Well, you can certainly go in and fix things now in the studio, which I don't like to do. And I only do that if it's necessary because it's something that I know is not going to be really, you know, something that really they'll notice. But a lot of times I just leave things the way they are because there's the spirit of that moment. I remember hearing Joe Walsh talk about that, you know, that because you can fix things, they become a little bit more, you know, generic.
Yeah, live is always better to me.
And if you can get that vibe in the studio, you know, I mean, that tune that from the album Batavia, the title track is 8.5 minutes.
Wow.
And I recorded that live with my brother on drums and a great piano player, Russell Ferrante, from the Yellow Jackets. Just the 3 of us. And everything is live from start to finish. We overdubbed the bass and a cello later. But the solo of everything was like, that was a lot of concentration.
Right.
And, you know, after we did a couple of takes, but I think it was the 3rd or 4th take, it all kind of clicked. So I wasn't looking to try to make it perfection by doing anything after the fact. I was looking to just get the best performance I could get. And usually that's the case when you're in the studio. So, you know.
Yeah, like you said, you've got it down now. So can you play something that different or that we haven't heard on the album here? I forgot to tell everybody, Happy Valentine's Day, everybody, and President's Day. This is for all you lovers out there. You're getting a treat with David Becker.
Let's see. Let me do this. I'll do an old standard since it's Valentine's Day.
All right.
This is actually a tune, it's an old tune written in 1932, which was actually a ballad written by Jerome Kern. It's been recorded, I recorded it on a record I did with a guitar player, Joe DiOrio, back in 2005. But it's a great standard. I love to play it, and it's called All the Things You Are. So I'll play a couple of bars of that and see what happens. there you go.
All right. Love that one. Very cool. Wow, you said from the 30s, huh?
Yeah, I think 32 is when it was written. It was written actually for, I believe it was a Broadway musical, and it was actually written as a ballad. It's a beautiful tune, and I mean it's got a great set of harmonic changes that a lot of jazz musicians love to play over. And you know, it's one of those melodies and harmonies that is everlasting. You know, if you think about, you know, music by Bach and Mozart, that stuff is, you know, hundreds of years old, and it's still being played and still being regarded.
Still.
So all the things you are, in terms of its significance in the 20th century and now into the 21st century, I mean, it's not that old. So, but it's a standard by all means, and it's one that, you know, I've been playing since I was like 18, and I'm going to probably play it till I die. So, you know, and I learn new things about it. But it's a beautiful melody and a beautiful set of changes. So, you know.
Wow, that is great. So what I thought, I haven't played, how do you pronounce the last
The last tune is called Bud's Last Toodaloo.
Toodaloo,
and that's actually, when my dad passed away in 2013.
Harold Becker.
Yeah, he died, and the last message that my brother had on his cell phone, my dad, his mother was Irish, from an Irish family, and Toodaloo is the way that the Irish say goodbye. So my dad would always say Toodaloo on the phone. And I wrote this piece of music just before I was going to record in Minneapolis. And at the very, very end of the record, you can hear my dad say Toodaloo. It's very, very, like, hidden underneath.
Okay.
But if you listen, you can hear it. And this is just an homage to my father, who really is one of the people responsible for the fact that I travel the way I do, because as a kid, he took us to Europe a lot. And it had a big impact on me, and I miss him every day, and this is my way of saying, you know, thanks, Dad.
And the music influence?
The musical influence was that he just gave us, well, he wasn't a musician, but he loved music.
Right.
And he loved classical music and all kinds of stuff.
My mother and father they owned restaurants, and my dad would bring home the 45s back then, and that's how I got
he bought us our first, you know, records. Like, he bought us a Glenn Campbell record with Wichita Lineman on it, which I was like, oh, that's weird, but yeah, it's great, you know, so.
Okay, let's check it out. For Kenneth Harold Becker, Toodaloo. You're rocking with the G-Rock on G-Rock's Demo Radio Show. Thank you very much for coming in. It's
my pleasure.
Been a real pleasure for me.
It's been fun for me, too.
Okay.